Get ready for the show, it's about to begin. Pro fan talk when we dive right in. Sports talk, hot takes, ain't nothing we lack. We the real fans, nothing holding us back. Mic check, 1, 2, y'all know the drill. We bringing the energy, we keep it real. Touchdowns on liquid air, on the slam dunks on the court. Every sport, every game, we holding down the fort. We breaking down the plays, dissecting the stats. Pro fan talk, we keeping it fat. Debating with passion, no filter, no doubt. We the voice of the fans, we scream and we shout.
What's good? What's good? What's good? We are here live at lunch on Monday morning. A lot of stuff going on. Alex first out the limo, a new member, part of my squad. Alex, I appreciate you to the utmost degree, brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keisha's in the building. Kev, the PRF, is in the building. Cody K is in the building, man. I appreciate y'all. We're going to have a quick conversation. I'm not going to be with you long. I am on my lunch break. Some of you guys are on your lunch break. And this is how it works. This is live at lunch. We're going to roll for about 45 minutes. I'm going to get done at probably about 12:50-ish. You know, that's plenty of time for you to finish your sandwich, wash your hands, and get back to work. Those are the rules, and we're going to get to it. And, of course, obviously with the draft going this weekend, Shedeur Sanders was on everybody's tongue. That was the big news everywhere, why he fell so far. Then you had the prank call situation. We'll get into why he fell. We're going to touch on that a little bit, but I wanted to focus on the prank calls that happened. He is not the only person that's ever got prank called on draft day. I don't know how that works, especially in this day and age. Now, I saw the clip of Shedeur saying that he had bought a new phone, got a new phone number the day before the draft. A lot of people do that because if you're sitting at home or if you're at a draft party, everybody's blowing up your phone. Did something happen yet? You trying to tell people don't call me. And I remember when I went through that, and I was not a draft pick. I was not on anybody's boards. I went home so I could watch the draft at home. I was sitting in my basement, and I had my mom and my dad tell all my family, don't call. Don't call. When we find something out, we'll let everybody know. And then after the draft, I got a couple calls. I got a call from Seattle. Then I got a call from the Eagles, and the Eagles wanted to sign me. I was supposed to sign with the Seattle Seahawks. I was supposed to meet them at the University of Cincinnati and sign with a couple of guys from UC. And then that was it. So I think I'm going to Seattle. Then they called me back about 20 minutes later. Hey, looks like we're going to go in a different direction. Good luck to you. And that's exactly how it happens. And my heart was broken because I'm thinking my dreams of playing in the league are done. A couple minutes later, Philadelphia calls me. Then the rest is history. But I remember specifically telling my dad, like, let everybody know, don't call. Stop calling. When we find something out, we will let you know. And this is before cell phones and, you know, the way we got it now. There was no internet, none of that. So everybody was calling the phone, and I'm sitting downstairs watching TV, you know, in 1993, you know. So it was a different time, but a lot of these guys do this. They will get a burner phone with a number that only the NFL teams have it, which is a smart thing to do. So how the kid got his number, that's the key. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. This was an employee of the Atlanta Falcons. So take the rumor about the girl from the Giants out of it. The GM, Sean, his daughter goes to Ole Miss. And the reason why that happened is if you look at the video, the prank call video, one of the guys was wearing an Ole Miss shirt. So people started connecting the dots because all of these GMs, they know everybody. All of the owners know most of the other owners. They talk. When you run in those type of circles, dealing with that type of money, all of those people talk to each other. Don't get it twisted. We'll get into that a little bit more as well with as far as talking and what happened with Shedeur in New York. So um Shedeur gives everybody the new number. The guy, Albrecht, the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, has the information on his iPad, and his kid goes in his iPad and steals the number. Now, let me pause right there. Time out. Let me rephrase that. His son. I'm not going to say kid. This joker is 21 years old. This joker is old enough to vote, old enough to drive, old enough to have a gun, and old enough to go to jail, and old enough to know better. So he picks the number, prank calls, and you saw what happened. It happened last year with Cooper DeJean. It happened before that. There's been a couple of guys that got prank call on draft day. The problem is it was somebody associated with an NFL team. That is the problem. The prank calls are not, this is not new. And I still say, how is everybody getting these numbers? I don't know what Cooper DeJean, I don't know what the phone number he used or gave out. But my issue is that this was perpetrated by somebody connected to an NFL team, a active coach in the NFL. His son stole information, privacy and security issue right there. And then you gonna prank call, and of all people, Shedeur, with everything he's going through and all of the hype and all of that type of stuff. And then people are looking at Shedeur and they throwing around words like entitled, arrogant. And I'm thinking, what kind of arrogant prick you gotta be to do something like that to somebody? I don't care who it is. Cooper DeJean, Shedeur Sanders, and all them other people that got pranked. What kind of prick do you got to be to do that on somebody's, you trying to take away somebody's moment? You trying to take away somebody's moment. And then you got the nerve to put it on TikTok. So not only was that just stupid, and I'll say it again, what kind of prick does that? You put your father in jeopardy. You put your father's $1 million job in jeopardy. Let me say it like that. Because he offered the apology, he talked to Shedeur, Atlanta released a statement, all of that type of stuff. Atlanta did exactly what they were supposed to do. They followed the protocol. It wasn't the dude's fault. However, that is somebody in his family that had access to Atlanta Falcons and NFL business. Security problem. And it happened on your watch. I think his name is Jack Obrick. I think the dad's name is Jack Obrick. Jack and Jax, I think. Let me see. Atlanta, DC. Yeah. I think his name is, maybe it's Frank. Is it Frank Obrick? Jeff Obrick. His name is Jeff Obrick. He is the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. So he's in the building. He's part of the Atlanta Falcons organizations. And if you know anything about how we do in football, if you are a coach, if you are a GM, owner, player, part of the medical staff, one of the trainers, if you work in the cafeteria, every opportunity you have to bring your kids in and let them have the experience, talk to the players, all of that stuff. Every time you have an opportunity to do that, you do it. One of my best friends, William Thomas, used to bring his sons into the locker room all the time. It's not uncommon. And it's not uncommon. GMs, coaches, same thing. Same thing up the ladder. But when you get a 21-year-old to do what he does, I am very, very curious to see how the NFL and Roger Goodell is going to handle this. Or is it going to be, yeah, the Atlanta Falcons said they were sorry. The investigation's over. Because that's why Atlanta released that statement with the quickness. They are trying to minimize damage because is this considered tampering? Like what do you classify this under? Maybe I'm making too much of it. But to me, this was a big deal. They wouldn't have done that shit to Peyton Manning. They didn't do it to Mills. I mean Cam Ward. They didn't do it to Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield or Jalen Hurts. So to me, that's a big problem, and I am very interested to see how Roger Goodell and the NFL's investigation, how they going to fall on this. Because I've seen things in the past when you get to tampering and stuff like that, where these teams lose draft picks. And that's why I say this kid could have possibly cost his father his $1 million job. When you, Kev, when you are a draft pick and you are a projected first rounder, all the teams have your number. That's the way it works because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when a deal is done, when a trade is made, when somebody falls. There are too many things that can happen. So everybody's got the number. There is I don't know what the protocol is nowadays, but you got to fill out your information to enter the draft. You got to give a phone number or you got to call the league office. I'm sure there's a protocol that takes care of that. And they know about this, about having private numbers or, a different number than you had when you was in college. Because again, everybody's going to be calling you. Did you hear something? Everybody's going to be calling you, blowing your phone up. You got the people, who was that? Was that CeeDee Lamb a couple years ago in the draft? And his girlfriend at the time, his phone rang and then his girlfriend picked up the phone. And you notice that wasn't the phone that he got the call with. That was his private phone, and then he had another phone specifically for the draft. That's how they do. Usually your agent will do that for you. Your agent will set that up and say, hey, here's a new iPhone. Do not give this number out. This is specifically for the draft. If you get a call on this phone, that means somebody's about to take you. Usually your agent will set that up. But the fact that, and this is the telling part, he just bought the phone the day before, which means he had to give the information out to the league so they can pass it out to the teams. That's the only reason Jeff Ulbrich had it. And this kid went, and it wasn't like it was out. I'm sure he was in his office or wherever it was. Wherever it was. He shouldn't have did what he did. Not as a 21-year-old. You old enough to know better. So I hope that the NFL brings down sanctions or some type of, I hope that Atlanta gets some type of repercussions for this. Because it was stupid and it was careless on their part. Because you can't, that just can't happen. Period. It can't happen. It can't happen. And it did. So now my thing is like, well, what now? So again, I want to see what the NFL and Roger Goodell is going to say about all of this. Or are they just going to brush it off? Because if they do just brush it off, then you know what? That's some bullshit. And then we can really throw around words like entitled and things of that nature. But we'll see what happens. Now, we'll get into a little bit of why Shedeur fell so much. That's a whole bigger set of circumstances. Do I think he should have fallen the way he did? Absolutely not. I watched every game but one of Colorado. And the one game I didn't watch live, I went back and watched the highlights. I watched Shedeur Sanders. He's a good quarterback. He wasn't trying to run everywhere. He wasn't trying to, he played behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. And he still put up the numbers that he did. And the funny part is now like everybody's got this. This is the reason why, and he's got this issue, he's got that issue. He doesn't have an arm, and I was like, everybody knew he had those issues when they labeled him a top 3 pick. He had those same issues. Everybody watched the same tape. Didn't nothing change. That's why you see this sudden flip flop, and everybody got the answer as to why he fell. And I was like, I ain't buying that. That don't pass the smell test to me, because 3 months ago everybody was saying it was this, this, and this. Now, here's the thing. If you can take 5 people and give your evaluation, and then some of those guys that you evaluated, everything turns out, because we ain't talking about play. 3-4 years from now, Shedeur could be the best player in the league, or he could be out of the league. And I can say the same thing about Cam Ward. I can say the same thing about Daniels. I can say the same thing about any quarterback that's ever been drafted. Matter of fact, I'm working on a video now that's talking about all of the best quarterbacks that were in college, Heisman finalists and the whole nine, that didn't even get drafted. Fell out of they ended up going undrafted free agents. So you got it on both sides. You got guys that are all world in college and don't get drafted. Then you got guys that never get drafted, finally get to the league, get their opportunity, and they don't let it go. Where did this guy come from? Look at Tony Romo. Shout out to Tony Romo, because he was a 1AA guy. So you look at somebody like Tony Romo, you look at somebody, and then you look at somebody like Ty Marinovich. You look at somebody like what's the quarterback that we got from Southern California? Barkley. Barkley lit it up. He was a Heisman finalist. And what happened? Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. And what happened? So I'm hoping that Shedeur gets a legit opportunity to play. That's it. Now, there's some built-in excuses and there's some built-in things that can happen, but that kind of comes with the territory. There's nothing you can do. This is not the first time a highly ranked athlete has dropped. Not the first time. Now, I will say this is the first time I've seen somebody that was universally ranked. Universally. All the people that do the study, all the people that do the analysis. I don't think there was many people that thought, I think it may have been 1 or 2 people that thought he was the best quarterback. I surely didn't. I thought Cam Ward was the best quarterback. But I thought he was easily number 2 or number 3. I thought he was better than the kid in Louisville. I thought he was better than the kid at Oregon. But that's just my opinion. However, universally, when everybody is coming out with the same prospects, and I'm not talking about what you see on ESPN. I'm not talking about what you see on First Take and Uncle Ocho and Stephen A. Smith. I'm not talking about that bullshit. I'm talking about guys like you got to look at guys like Brian Baldinger. You look at guys like Barrett Brooks. You look at guys like Greg Cosell. You look at guys like what's the name? TJ, the quarterback school. JT O'Sullivan and the quarterback school. That dude, go watch his analysis of Shedeur Sanders. And then go watch his analysis of every quarterback. Every quarterback has flaws. Every quarterback has something they need to work on. Every quarterback doesn't have a rifle arm. Every quarterback is not accurate. JT O'Sullivan is somebody that calls it like he sees it. So I trust his judgment better than almost anybody, with the exception of maybe Greg Cosell, because I know Greg Cosell studies a lot of tape. But you got to watch the people that watch tape. Not Mel Kiper's, and I'm sure Mel Kiper watches a lot of tape and does homework. But when you're dealing with guys with that much volume, they ain't got time to watch all of that stuff. But having said that, you go back 3, 4, 5 months ago, and you look at everybody's analysis then based on what they saw on the field in the season, what they saw in actual games, not what he did at the combine or what other people did at the combine. You watch the tape of the games. That's how you get your evaluation. And most people's, there was a majority of people who unanimously had Shedeur in the top three. At worst, the top 5 players in the draft. So now, all of a sudden, all of that work, all of that study doesn't matter. All of that, so they were wrong. Everybody was wrong. Again, we're not talking about once he gets on the field. That happens every year too. You get a high prospect when they get into camp. Nah, this is not what we signed up for. Happens all the time. He might be one of those guys. I don't think that he is. But you mean to tell me everybody that was doing those evaluations, all of them were wrong? Because at any time, if they hated Shedeur so much, they had every opportunity to say why he wasn't as good, or say this or say that. And some people did. But even those criticisms, you could find some of their top prospects that had the same criticisms. So you got to keep it a buck one way or the other. Yeah, I saw that, Quentin. Let me look. Let me hold on for a second. Let me get my notes out. And I'm gonna rattle off some names for you. I'm gonna go back a little bit. So some of y'all might not remember these names. We're gonna go back in the annals a little bit. So check this out. Damn it. So check out these names. Matt Barkley, 2012 Heisman finalist. Right? Matt Barkley was lighting it up that year. 2012. Right? Heisman finalist. Barkley set numerous passing records at USC and was once considered a potential #1 overall pick. However, concerns about his arm strength, team performance, and he ended up falling to the fourth round, the 98th pick. And we took him. The Eagles took him. All right. Now this dude came out when I was playing. Gino Torretta. Gino Torretta won the Heisman at Miami. University of Miami, the U. So he was at a big school, won the Heisman, and ended up going in the 7th round. 7th round. I think he drafted by Minnesota. 192nd overall, 1993 draft, which was my draft, by the Minnesota Vikings. And he had a very small NFL career. Set all the records in college, just didn't pan out. Ty Detmer, BYU, 1990 Heisman winner. Prolific college career, numerous NCAA records, but he was a small dude, didn't have a lot of arm strength, 9th round to the Green Bay Packers. Mostly a backup. Doug Flutie, we all know Doug Flutie. I played against Doug Flutie in the CFL. Doug Flutie was the truth, but he was another Heisman winner. A lot of yards and a lot of stats in college, but his size betrayed him. Can't do nothing about that. Drafted in the 11th round by the Rams. Troy Smith, Chris Winkie, Jason White. I think Jason White is the guy somebody mentioned earlier. Jason White, 2003 Heisman winner, set all the records in the stats at Oklahoma. He was injured, knee injuries, went undrafted in 2005. Played with the Tennessee Titans for a half a second, and then ended up retiring because of said knee injury. So, and then of course, one example was Charlie Ward, Heisman winner, but ended up playing basketball for the Knicks. So, and I say all that to say there are plenty of people. Shedeur's situation is not as uncommon as people think. The difference is that because of NIL now and because of Deion Sanders, his visibility was through the roof. His visibility was more than any other quarterback that I could ever think of, with the exception maybe of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was just that good in college. And I think he ended up losing the Heisman to. He was a finalist, and he ended up losing to. Was it Charles Woodson? Think so. Yeah. Yep. In '97, he was the runner-up to Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson was a two-way player like Travis Hunter from Michigan. So it happens. Ryan Leaf, good one. Ryan Leaf is definitely a good one. Gino Torretta, I played against Gino Torretta in the World League, and he just wasn't a good quarterback. Gino Torretta was the classic example of he was a good quarterback on a great Miami team. So I mean, you could go through, you can find a lot of them. You can find a lot of them. So that my point is that you get one side of the story, um, where people are like, they calling for the isms and collusion. I know Stephen A. Smith said collusion and stuff like that. And I'm like, and let me be honest with you. When I first heard the story about the phone number getting out for the prank call, and then I found out it was a coach, and then you had all of the rumors, and I was like, maybe that collusion thing is not so far fetched. But after hearing the story, reading everything, seeing what happened in Atlanta, the kid called him, and I think it was isolated in that that one thing. Now, when you're talking about collusion, that means everybody in the room is trying to get you out or trying to work against you, right? All of the owners in the league are colluding to not have Shedeur Sanders in the league, and I don't think that's the case. However, this is where that comes from. So if you saw the story with Daboll, Brian Daboll, the head coach of the New York Giants, and this is just my interpretation of how this could have gone. All right, this was a story over the weekend. New York Giants, Brian Daboll was reportedly one coach who had a negative experience with Shedeur Sanders. Because we had anonymous reports and stuff like that, but Todd McShay was saying stuff, and I'm trying to see when he tells the story. Basically, so here's what happens when you go in for a visit and you're projected to be a top pick. When you're going for a visit, especially a quarterback, what they like to do, bring you in, you talk to the OC, offensive coordinator, and they kind of pick your brain a little bit. They pick your brain. Yes, we talked about that Bird game, Cooper DeJean. I didn't realize Kyle McCord got pranked, but neither one of them got pranked by somebody whose father was an NFL coach. That, to me, that's the issue. It's not that they got pranked, which it sucks in itself, but the person that did it, he's got direct ties to the NFL. That's the problem. But what I was saying was when athletes go on this visit, projected top pick athletes, you hear all the time about your top 30 visits and all of that type of stuff. So when quarterbacks come in, you get with your offensive coordinator, you say, hey, let's test the guy. So, and I'm sure you've seen it. Look up what John Gruden does when he brings quarterbacks in. You get them to the whiteboard and you said, hey, this is what we're trying to run. You got a 4-3 defense, or you got this with a cover 2 shell, and you'll throw out a couple defenses or whatever the situation is. You will put a situation on the board and you will tell the guy, like, hey, this is what we want to do. Here's down a distance. What are you looking at? And he's got to know the play and the defense. And okay, this guy usually drops back, so we got a pocket in here. He's got to show his work on why he would make a call and what he's looking at. Now, the situation is there's really no right or wrong answers in a situation like this. The coaches are merely just trying to ascertain your thought process. There's no right or wrong answer. Your X receiver might be open. The wide receiver might be open, because mind you, this is all hypothetical. And then usually if you watch stuff like this, that's why they do it on the whiteboard, because the guy will say, okay, the safety came up, so I got this guy on the skinny post right behind the safety, and he can beat that cornerback because he's playing on the outside and go it right down the middle. Think of a situation like the dagger in the Super Bowl, right? So he'll draw that up and and then they'll say, but wait a minute, what if the safety drops back and he doesn't bite? The cornerback goes back, and then you got all of this space in the middle. So instead of doing that, I'm gonna give a audible, and this guy, the X receiver on the outside, he's gonna come in on a hard post, and I'm gonna hit him across the middle and see if he can break a tackle and get 10 to 15 yards. So basically, they throwing out a scenario, and you are to figure out what you want to do, and you can change it. You can go back and say, I'll do this. Well, if it's this defense, then I'll do this. But if it's this defense, then I'll do this. But if it's a blitz, I'm going to have to take off. Hopefully I can dump it to my check down. So it's just trying to figure out how a quarterback is thinking. And apparently, Shedeur wasn't prepared. The Giants gave what's called an install. So they, from my estimation, they gave Shedeur a couple of plays or some things to look at, and he didn't look at it. He wasn't. This is what Dayball says. He wasn't prepared, and Dayball let Shedeur know he wasn't prepared, and Shedeur responded. And Dayball didn't like the fact that he responded, or how he responded, or what he responded with. Somewhere in that communication, Dayball didn't like it. And I'm going to guess, because he said it's the worst interview he's ever been involved in, I would imagine that it was probably confrontational. Possibly. I'm guessing. I don't know. I wasn't there. And Dayball ain't going to talk about it. Now, let's say that happened, right? What do you think Dayball's going to do? First person Dayball talks to, the GM. Well, why is he going to talk to the GM? Because they were high on Shedeur. New York was thinking about drafting Shedeur. Absolutely. It was Shedeur and Abdul Carter, because everybody knew that Cam Ward was going to the Titans. That was already a done deal. Everybody knew that was going to happen. Right? So first person he talks to is the GM. And why don't you like him? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And the GM may have been in the room when the conversation happened in the first place. But now, if you don't think for a second that those GMs don't talk to each other, they talk. They talk at league meetings. They talk on the phone. They have Zoom calls almost every week. They go to the combine. Then they get together and talk at the combine. Talk about what happened at the combine. This guy looked great. This guy didn't look so hot. Never expected that guy to run that 40 time. I think I'm going to have to move him up on my board. Some of these guys got the same agents. So there is a ring of familiarity with all the GMs and all of the owners. So if you think that the GM for the Giants and the ownership from the Giants didn't talk to other owners and the word didn't spread, then you haven't been paying attention for years. That's how it happens, fair or unfair. That's how it happens. Why do you think there's so many athletes that are projected to be top picks? Why do you think they don't go to the combine? Shedeur Sanders, the best thing Shedeur could have done was not even go and do the interviews. He should have waited till they came to him, and he could have conducted the interviews and drew on the whiteboard right there at the comfort of Colorado. But of course, you get out and you see he got the chain on, and do you know who my father is? And he going, and let me be honest with you. I heard most of his interviews at the combine. I didn't think anything was out of line. However, I can see how some owners won't like that. I don't like somebody is arrogant, and people are like that. When you got the money, you want it a certain way. You want it a certain way. So that's not new. That's not new. So I'm just saying that as to enlighten people on how that can happen. Now, I'm not going to sit there and call it collusion, because that happens all of the time. I do not believe all of the owners in the NFL were working against Shedeur Sanders, because Shedeur Sanders is still talented. The other part of this that nobody's really getting into, unless you're in the football circles, but the other thing is there wasn't really a lot of teams that really needed a quarterback. The Browns, the Steelers, possibly the Seahawks, and Las Vegas. You got 4 teams. But it shouldn't matter, because he was a universal top 3 QB. So he should have been at least the second or the third QB taken. That's where the issue is. And for me, I'm like, so you mean to tell me all these evaluators, they was lying the whole time? Mel Kiper was the only one that was trying to follow through with it. And I don't know why Mel Kiper got so hyped during the draft. His conversations got heated. And there has been plenty of times in the past where Mel Kiper was 100% wrong on who he thought was going to be a good player, blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing that I love. This is why I love watching the draft and the coverage and all that type of stuff. Even with me doing what I'm doing now, because I consider myself a small part of the media now, even on YouTube. I love it when it's proven that most of these people, me included, we don't know shit. We don't know what's going on. We have no clue. Everybody is guessing. Everybody. You bring up the draft, and even now you can go on the website and do a mock draft and watch how different the mock draft is from what actually happened. Nobody knows anything. Everybody's guessing. Todd Mache, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, all them people on First Take, Unkin Ocho, Stephen A. Smith. Everybody's guessing. Nobody knows. And everybody wants to shout out to the high heavens when they get something right because they were guessing. That was the lottery ticket. Don't nobody know if one of these analysts comes out and says, I told you that Cam Ward was going to the Titans, everybody would look at him like, yeah, Captain Obvious. You're not telling us any good information. But when you get lower in the draft, you never know what somebody's going to do. You never know what's going to somebody. Mel Kiper, I understand what he was doing, but Mel Kiper been wrong for so many years on so many things and on so many athletes. Mel Kiper done struck out tons of times. The reason why Mel Kiper is in the situation he is in is because Mel Kiper was the first one to do it. Mel Kiper was the first one to study tape and write a book about the draft prospects. Mel Kiper started that, so you got to give him props. And guess what? He ain't always wrong, but when you do something like he does for this long, you bound to strike out a lot. That's the nature of the business. You bound to strike out a lot. Go back and look at some of the tape and what some of these people said about Tim Tebow and what they said about Jalen Hurts and what they said about Josh Allen and what they said about Joey Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel. Y'all remember this? Skip Bayless was screaming to the high heavens. Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything. Everybody is guessing, but nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to admit it. I will tell everybody when the season gets started, I'm going to say the same thing. I said the same thing in baseball. I say the same thing in basketball. I say the same thing in football. Everybody puts out the list, who's the best, and and it's like, man, shut up. Miss me with that. You are not going to know anything until your team plays at least 4 games. I've done this for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not going to give any type of evaluation on the Philadelphia Eagles until we reach week 5. That means we get 4 games under our belt. That way, you can see what we got. Do we have a good offensive line? Is the quarterback playing well? What is our running back situation looking like? Do they give the ball to the running back enough? Can we tackle as a defense? Can we cover as a defense? What does our safety look like? What does these 2 rookies at cornerback look like? Is Jalen Carter as good as we think he is? Answer all of those questions, but you got to see him play on the field. I'm going through the same thing right now with the WNBA. I'm a WNBA fan. I follow it. I produce content for it. And yesterday was the first day for the WNBA, and people lost their shit. Posting clips of the women practicing and hitting jump shots, and oh, she's on fire. They putting in work. They ready to get it done. And it's like, pump your brakes. There's just practice. We talking about practice, not a game. Practice. Same thing with the NFL. More so in the NFL. So people go crazy. People go nuts. That's part of fandom, and I understand that. But the one thing you see on social media and all this type of stuff, You keyboard warriors, they like to say anything, and it's like, you don't know what my history is. You don't know that I study tape. Most people don't study tape. Watching highlights on YouTube is not studying tape. It's not. I don't want to see you beasting out against a bad team. That's not showing me nothing. What's up, Alex? Appreciate you, bro. That's not showing me nothing. I don't want to see you beasting out on Sister Mary of the Poor. That ain't, you know what I'm saying? That's not getting anything out of that. So, but that's what people get into. Interesting topic this weekend. A lot of people, like I said, they want to throw around the isms and all that type of stuff. And like this has been happening for years. This has been happening for years. Now, let me say this. Is it possible that Shedeur didn't do himself any favors by how he handled himself at the meetings at the combine and stuff like that? Absolutely, it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. Let me bring this home for you like this. How many times have you been in a situation, or you have met somebody? Maybe it's at work, somebody in the family. You meet somebody, and you and that somebody, I don't like them. I don't like what they did. I don't like. I ain't digging his vibe. I don't like his personality. You know what? I'm just gonna stay over here. I'm gonna give you a good letting alone. It's cool. We can respect each other from the distance and all of that type of stuff. How many times has that happened to you in your life? What do you think these owners do? Because there are people that you just don't vibe with. You just don't. I don't like that aura. Or I'm the owner. This is my team. I don't care what he says. I don't like the way he acts. And everybody else around is not going to like the way he acts because I don't like the way he acts. There are owners like that. Everybody's had an experience with some rich brat in high school and stuff like that. It's the same type of personalities, except now they just have more money. It's the same shit. And the reaction can be the same. I want it my way because I'm spoiled and I'm entitled and blah, blah, blah. And when you're the owner of the team, you got long pockets like that. When you get a couple $100 million in the bank, you got it like that. What they say, what John Goodman say in that movie, they got FU money. So, and I'm saying all that to say, is it possible that he didn't ingratiate himself at the meetings? Yes, it's possible. The pushback with that is there has been plenty of athletes that didn't have a good interview, didn't have good one-on-ones, off the field problems, didn't go to class. There are a plethora of people that went through the draft process that did a whole lot worse than Shedeur Sanders ever could have done and still got drafted in the top rounds. So at the end of the day, if it's your money and your toys, you got the option to say yes or no. And unfortunately, for whatever reasons, fair or unfair, most of the people in the league said no. And I'm hoping that Shedeur Sanders will get the opportunity to make him eat their words. But now he's fourth or fifth on the depth chart. So he's going to be running with the 3s and the 4s. He's going to be taking snaps with an inferior offensive line. Well, that shouldn't be different because the offensive line at Colorado was hot garbage. That's, to me, that's what made Shedeur so good. He was getting his head blowed off because some of them jokers were teeing off on him because the offensive line just wasn't good. And I'm saying they weren't good, but they were better than they was the first year. But he was just taking some shots. But the one thing he did was he could get that ball on target and on time. He did that consistently. And that's what, to me, put him over the top over a lot of people because he did it consistently. And people forget how bad Colorado was 2 years ago. So um, it is what it is. Iverson meme forever. Facts, facts. So yeah, man, it's that's a lot of stuff. Much ado about something. But I know this. I was listening to Cleveland Sports Talk Radio this morning. Just like in Philadelphia, you can go to YouTube 97.5 WIP, whatever you want to listen to. I tapped into a Cleveland Sports Radio channel. It was hilarious because they don't know what to make of it. They don't know what to make of it. If the Cleveland Browns would have just taken Shedeur with that second pick that they had, not the second pick in the draft, but after they made their first pick, their second pick in the draft. If they would have just taken Shedeur, they wouldn't be having all these questions. So, and here's the deal. The Cleveland Browns need a quarterback because it ain't Deshaun Watson, it ain't Joey Flacco who's 40, and it ain't Kenny Pickett. So either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders is going to end up leading this team into the future. And they got a top-ranked quarterback for a 5th-round price. That's like getting a Lamborghini at 90% off. Make the most of it, Cleveland. Whether you wanted them or not, everybody's evaluation of Shedeur is not wrong. So figure out what type of talent you got. And at the very worst, you got a top 3 quarterback for a 5th-round price. You save $40 million. Shedeur Sanders is with the Cleveland Browns and took a pay cut because he's making all of that money in NIL money at Colorado. You know he is. So he's taking a pay cut playing with the Browns. This is where I give Shedeur credit for because he don't need to play in the league. He ain't gonna never miss a meal. It's for the love of the game. He got to prove how good he is. He got to stand on his own merit. We knew Shiloh wasn't gonna get drafted. He still got with a team though. I think he got picked like really, really late. But he's with the Buccaneers. He's gonna get his shot. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But it's gonna be fun to watch, man. It's gonna be fun to watch. So, but all right, man. Like I said, this is gonna be short, sweet, to the point. It is 12:57. So I'm about to get up out of here, wash my hands, and get back to work. So I appreciate y'all joining me. This is fun. We're gonna talk a little bit more tonight. So check me out. I'll probably be on probably around 8 o'clock. Do another live stream tonight. So we got some other stuff going too. And also next week, I will probably be starting some of my WNBA content in earnest. So if you are a WNBA fan, yes, I'm a Caitlin Clark fan, Kelsey Mitchell fan. So we're gonna keep it moving. So check me out. Make sure you subscribe, hit me up, become a member, all that type of good stuff. So I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day at work. Peace and go Birds.